I want to start today's deep dive with a single word. It's a name, technically, but in the English language, it's become something else entirely. It's a verb. Houdini.
It really has. You hear constantly
Hmm.
in sports, in politics, just in casual conversation.
Yeah, a quarterback escapes a collapsing pocket. He's pulling a Houdini.
Or a teenager sneaks out of a boring family dinner. They pulled a Houdini. It's just part of the lexicon.
Exactly. It's shorthand for escaping the inescapable, for performing, I guess, a miracle when you are backed into a corner and the walls are closing in. But here's the issue I want to tackle with you today.
Okay.
When we use that word, when we throw that name around, we are almost always thinking about a cartoon version of the man. We picture the guy in the straitjacket or maybe the guy holding his breath underwater and, we stop there.
The caricature. Yeah, the man on the poster.
Right. But when you actually look at the source material we have in front of us today, which is this massive, comprehensive breakdown of his life, his diaries, police reports, even the medical records around his death, you realize the magic tricks might actually be the least interesting thing about him.
That is a bold claim for the most famous magician in history, but I completely agree with you. I really do. Because when you strip away the cape and the handcuffs, what you are left with is a story about the invention of modern celebrity.
Yes.
You're looking at an immigrant hustler, a pioneer aviator, a failed movie star, and a guy who spent his final years in a bitter public war with the creator of Sherlock Holmes.
It's a chaotic, messy, just fascinating life, and our mission for this deep dive is to organize that chaos. We want to understand how Erik Weisz, a poor kid from Budapest, convinced the world he was superhuman.
Right.
We want to move beyond the image of the man in the straitjacket and meet the man who essentially created the concept of the viral stunt before the internet even existed.
And we need to answer the big question that hangs over his entire career. Was his greatest delusion the idea that he was invincible? Because that belief in his own invincibility is, well, it's ultimately what killed him.
So let's unpack this. Because before he was the Great Houdini, before the fame and the fortune, he was just Erik. And the story doesn't start on a stage under bright lights. It starts on a boat.
It does. We're going back to 1874. He's born Erik Weisz in Budapest, Austria-Hungary. But the formative experience, the trauma that I think shapes everything that follows, happens 4 years later. He's on the SS Frisia, crossing the Atlantic to America.
And this isn't a luxury cruise. This isn't first class.
Oh, no. Far from it. This is steerage class. This is the gritty, classic immigrant narrative. He's with his pregnant mother and 4 brothers. His father, Rabbi Meir Samuel Weisz, had gone ahead to prep the way, but the American dream wasn't exactly working out as advertised.
Where did they land?
They land in Appleton, Wisconsin, of all places.
Which feels like a strange place for a Hungarian rabbi to set up shop. I don't imagine there was a massive congregation waiting for him there.
It was a very small community.
Yeah?
And it didn't last. The father loses his job as a rabbi, and this is where the story gets dark fast. The source material describes their situation as a free fall into dire poverty.
Dire poverty.
They lose the house in Appleton, move to Milwaukee, and eventually end up in a boarding house on East 79th Street in New York City.
I think this poverty is so crucial to understanding his psychology. We aren't talking about a kid who got a magic kit for Christmas and thought it was fun. We are talking about a kid working odd jobs at age 8 just to help his parents buy bread.
Absolutely. It created a hustle mindset that never left him. I mean, even when he was the highest paid performer in the world, he worked with this desperate, frantic energy, like he was afraid he'd end up back in that boarding house.
What kind of jobs?
He was a tie cutter, a messenger boy, a photography assistant. He did anything, anything to survive.
But amidst all that struggle, there is a spark of the performer emerging early. And I love this detail. At 9 years old, he makes his debut, not as a magician, but as a trapeze artist.
The Prince of the Air.
Erik, the Prince of the Air. That is a level of confidence I did not possess at 9 years old.
It tells you 2 things immediately. 1, he was physically fearless. He was comfortable with his body in dangerous situations. He was small, athletic, and punchy.
And the second thing.
And 2, he had a desperate need to be seen. He didn't want to be in the audience. He wanted to be the one hanging above them. He wanted eyes on him.
But the transition to magic happens because of a book. He reads the autobiography of the French magician Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin.
Right, the greatest French magician of the era, the father of modern conjuring. And this leads to one of the most famous and frankly hilarious misunderstandings in show business history.
Okay, what happened?
Young Erik reads this book, idolizes this man, and decides he wants to carry on his legacy. He thinks that if you add the letter I to a name in French, it means like. So he thinks Houdini translates to like Houdin.
No way! So he literally named himself the guy who is like that other guy.
Exactly. He wanted to honor his hero, which is deeply ironic because decades later, once Houdini is famous, the relationship with his idol takes a very, very dark turn.
Right, he writes a book called The Unmasking of Robert Houdin, which sounds like a takedown piece.
It was a brutal takedown piece. He basically tears his childhood hero to shreds, calling him a fraud, a thief, and a liar. He accused him of stealing tricks from other magicians.
What triggered that flip? How do you go from naming yourself after a guy to trying to destroy his legacy?
It's classic Houdini psychology. He was incredibly competitive. He couldn't stand being second best, even to a dead man. Once he surpassed Houdin in fame, he had to destroy him to stand alone at the top. It foreshadows how combative he became.
So if you were his idol today, you could be his mortal enemy tomorrow.
Pretty much, yeah.
So he has the name, he has the ambition, he has the Prince of the Air confidence. But the 1890s are rough. I mean, he's not playing the Palace Theater right away.
No, he's in the trenches. We're talking dime museums and sideshows. And for you, the listener, if you don't know what a dime museum was, imagine a mix between a freak show and a low-budget circus.
So you'd have, what, like a bearded lady?
A bearded lady, a two-headed calf in a jar, and Harry Houdini doing card tricks in the corner.
And the source mentions he even doubled as the wild man.
Yes, at a circus.
I need you to paint this picture for me. What does a wild man do?
It was a common act at the time. Usually it involved wearing furs, messing up your hair, sitting in a cage.
In a cage.
Yeah, in a cage. Maybe eating raw meat and growling at people to scare them. It was degrading work.
The Great Houdini growling in a cage for nickels. That is humility.
It shows the grind. He was performing with his brother, Dash Theodore, as the Brothers Houdini, and they were making near-starvation wages at Huber's Guy Museum. It was humiliating work, but he refused to quit. He just kept pushing.
And somewhere in this misery, there is a bright spot. He meets Bess.
Wilhelmina Beatrice Ronner. The love story is actually quite sweet, but also a bit sharp, in true Houdini fashion. She was technically being courted by his brother, Dash, at first.
Oh, that's awkward. Hey, brother, I know you like her, but I'm taking her.
Harry didn't care. He was a force of nature. He swooped in, charmed her, and they got married in 1894. And she didn't just become his wife, she became his partner. She replaced Dash in the act. For the rest of his life, she was the one handing him the keys, checking the locks, and standing by the curtain.
She was the only person he truly trusted.
The only one.
So they are grinding away, doing magic. And here is a detail that I found surprising. The sources imply he wasn't actually a very good magician.
That is the dirty little secret of the Houdini myth. If you talk to magic historians, the consensus is that Houdini was a mediocre sleight-of-hand artist at best.
Really?
Yeah. He built himself as the king of cards, but he lacked the finesse. He was heavy-handed. If you watched him do a card trick up close, you might catch him. He didn't have that soft touch that the masters have.
So how do you go from being a clumsy card magician to a legend? You need a manager who sees what you can't see.
Enter Martin Beck. St. Paul, Minnesota, 1899. This is the pivot point of his entire life. Beck watches the act. He sees the bad card tricks. He sees the energy. And he gives Houdini the most important feedback he ever received.
Which was?
He basically says, Eric, the card tricks, they're painful. Stop doing them. But that thing at the end, where you get out of the old handcuffs, do that, only that. Focus on the escape. Become the Handcuff King. Beck books him on the Orpheum circuit, which was the big leagues of vaudeville. And suddenly Houdini isn't a magician anymore. He's an escape artist. He found his lane.
And this leads to the European tour in 1900, where the legend really solidifies. But what strikes me here is his marketing strategy. He doesn't just put up posters and hope people come. He goes to war with the local police.
It was brilliant. It was viral marketing before the internet. In every city, London, Berlin, Moscow, he would walk into the central police station, find the chief and say, lock me up. Use your best cuffs. Strip search me so you know I have no keys.
It's so aggressive. You're daring the police to fail.
It's confrontational. He went to Scotland Yard and baffled a superintendent named William Melville. He managed to escape their handcuffs so quickly and so cleanly that the buzz was instantaneous. He got booked at the Alhambra Theater for 6 months straight.
And his salary?
It jumped to $300 a week.
And just to contextualize that for you listening, $300 a week in 1900 is enormous money.
In today's purchasing power, that is over $11,000 a week. He went from starvation wages in a dime museum to wealthy in a matter of months.
But the stunt that really captures my imagination is the Russian one, the Siberian transport van.
This is Houdini understanding the power of narrative. He's in Russia, and he challenges the secret police. They lock him in a Siberian transport van.
What even is that?
It's a zinc-lined steel box on wheels used to transport prisoners to the gulags. It was a symbol of despair.
It's a terrifying object.
And to raise the stakes, Houdini claimed that the key to the van was kept at the destination in Siberia. So if he didn't get out, he wasn't just stuck in a box. He was effectively being deported to Siberia.
He created a scenario where failure meant exile. He turned a magic trick into a life-or-death thriller.
Exactly. It took him about an hour, but he got out. The Russians were furious, the public went wild, and his fame just exploded. He was doing things that seemed impossible.
However, you can't challenge the police constantly without eventually annoying a cop. And that happened in Cologne, Germany.
This story feels like a movie scene.
The Cologne lawsuit. This is a crucial anecdote because it shows how litigious Houdini was. A police officer named Werner Graf wrote an article accusing Houdini of bribery. He said, "He's not escaping. He's paying people off. It's all a scam." Which, to be fair, is a reasonable suspicion for a police officer to have.
It is. But Houdini couldn't let it stand. He sued Graf for slander. The trial was a sensation. The judge was skeptical. He wanted proof. So Houdini turned the courtroom into a theater.
What did he do?
He asked the judge to verify the lock on the court's own safe.
He's going to break into the judge's safe in the middle of the trial.
During a recess, he managed to open the judge's safe. When the trial resumed, he revealed he had cracked it.
How? Did he have dynamite?
He later claimed the judge had simply forgotten to lock it properly, and he just seized the moment. But in court, it looked like magic. He opened the safe, showing he could bypass their security. He won the case. Graf had to publicly apologize and pay costs.
It's such a power move. He's not just performing, he's humiliating authority figures.
And that resonated so deeply with the audience. Think about the era, 1900s Europe. Imperial empires, strict class structures, powerful police states. Yeah. And here is this short Jewish immigrant kid from Wisconsin who lets the police chain him up, strip him naked, and search him. And he still beats them. He represented freedom. He represented the idea that no chain can hold a man who wants to be free.
That's a great insight. He was an avatar for the underdog. But as his fame grew, the challenges had to get harder. And that brings us to the Mirror Challenge in 1904.
The Daily Mirror newspaper in London. They weren't fans. They wanted to break him. So they commissioned a locksmith to spend 5 years building a pair of handcuffs specifically designed to stump Houdini.
5 years of R&D for a pair of cuffs. That is dedication to hating someone.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
They were a monstrosity, Bramah locks, nested mechanisms. 4,000 people packed the London Hippodrome to watch this showdown. And this was not a quick trick. This wasn't, bam, I'm out.
The sources say it lasted over an hour.
An hour and 10 minutes. Imagine sitting in a theater watching a man struggle with cuffs for an hour. It wasn't entertainment. It was an ordeal. Houdini was sweating profusely. He was groaning.
And at one point, he asked them to unlock the cuffs just so he could take off his coat because he was overheating.
And they said no.
They said no.
They said no. They thought he wanted to look at the key or the mechanism. So Houdini improvises. He takes a penknife from his pocket, holds it in his teeth, and cuts his coat off his body. Ribbon by ribbon.
That is absolute rock star behavior. That is punk rock.
The crowd went insane. Then about an hour in, Bess comes on stage. She gives him a kiss.
The famous kiss.
Critics called it the kiss of life or the kiss of death. The rumor was that she passed him a key in her mouth.
Is that plausible?
Well, the source notes that the key for these specific cuffs was 6 inches long.
Okay, try hiding a 6-inch key in your mouth while kissing someone. That seems difficult.
And dangerous.
Highly unlikely. But it adds to the mystery. 10 minutes later, he emerges free. He's crying. He's holding up the cuffs. It was the hardest escape of his career. He was physically broken by it. But this creates a problem, doesn't it? If you are the best in the world at handcuffs, eventually handcuffs get boring. The audience gets used to it. Oh, he's out again. Cool.
Exactly. The market gets saturated. By 1905, every 2-bit vaudeville show had a Handcuff King. Houdini realized he was becoming a commodity. He needed to change the game. He needed to introduce the genuine threat of death.
He needed stakes that went beyond, will he get out, to, will he survive? This is the shift from escape artist to stuntman.
Correct. In 1908, he debuts The Milk Can Escape. The poster literally said, failure means a drowning death.
He's not fighting the police anymore. He's fighting biology.
And he would invite the audience to hold their breath along with him while he was submerged in the can.
Which is brilliant psychology, because most people start panicking after, what, 45 seconds?
Exactly. You're sitting in your comfortable velvet seat, gasping for air, realizing how hard it is. Meanwhile, he's been underwater for 2 minutes, locked in a metal can, inside a wooden chest. He turned the audience's empathy into physical discomfort. He made them feel the suffocation.
And he keeps escalating. We get the Chinese water torture cell.
The upside down. It's the most iconic image of Houdini. His feet are locked in stocks, and he is lowered headfirst into a tank of water.
Why head first?
Disorientation. It rushes blood to the head, and critically, the front was glass. In the milk can, he was hidden. In the water torture cell, you could see him floating there. You could watch his hair moving in the water. It made the drowning threat visible.
But he didn't just stay on stage. He took it to the streets. The suspended straitjacket escape. I was surprised to learn this was actually his brother Hardin's idea.
Hardin was often the brains behind the scenes. Houdini used to do the straitjacket escape behind a curtain. Hardin said, no, do it in plain sight, and hang upside down from a crane.
It's such a simple tweak, but it changes everything.
He would hang 100 feet in the air, dangling from newspaper buildings or cranes while they were building the New York subway. It would literally stop traffic, tens of thousands of people craning their necks. It was free entertainment, but it built his legend.
Now, I want to get technical for a second. How do you get out of a straitjacket while hanging upside down? Is there a trick?
There is a method, and it's grueling. It's not magic, it's physiology. When they are strapping you in, you have to keep your muscles tense. You expand your chest and shoulders, make yourself as huge as possible.
So you're inflating yourself.
Right. Then, once you're in the air, you exhale fully and relax your muscles. That creates about 2 or 3 inches of slack in the canvas. Then it's just a matter of dislocating your shoulder or wiggling your arm over your head. It requires immense upper body strength and pain tolerance.
So when he finished these stunts, he wasn't faking the exhaustion.
Oh, no, he was battered. He was often covered in bruises. It was a workout. He was an athlete as much as a magician.
But there was one stunt that truly terrified him. The buried alive concept.
This is where the fear becomes real. 1915, Santa Ana, California. He decided to try being buried in a 6-foot pit without a casket. Just dirt shoveled directly onto his body.
No casket, just dirt. That sounds like a terrible idea.
It was a horrific idea. The weight of the earth is incredibly heavy. As soon as they covered him, the dirt crushed him. He couldn't breathe. He tried to dig his way up, but the dirt kept filling in. He panicked.
He actually panicked. The Great Houdini.
He did. He lost control. His hand broke the surface, and his assistants had to drag him out unconscious. He later wrote that the fear of the weight of that earth stayed with him forever. It was the one time nature truly beat him.
And yet, because he is Houdini, he goes back to it later.
Years later, in 1926. But this time, it was for an intellectual point. There was an Egyptian mystic named Rahman Bey who claimed he could survive in a sealed casket underwater using supernatural powers.
Houdini couldn't stand that.
Dad had hated it.
Yeah.
He said it's not magic, it's breath control. So Houdini stayed in a sealed casket underwater for 90 minutes just to prove that a normal man could do it if he remained calm and regulated his oxygen consumption.
I will nearly die just to prove you aren't a wizard.
That was his mindset. He was obsessive about truth in his own way.
This segues perfectly into the next phase of his life. We've covered the magician and the stuntman, but he also wanted to be a modern Renaissance man. He wanted to conquer the air and the screen.
The aviation chapter is fascinating because it's so often forgotten. In 1909, aviation is brand new. It's dangerous. Houdini buys a French Voisin biplane for $5,000.
That is a fortune in 1909.
He hires a mechanic, paints his name on the side, and decides he's going to be the first person to fly a powered aircraft in Australia.
Why Australia?
It was an open record. Nobody had done it yet. There was a race to be the first. In 1910, at Diggers Rest in Victoria, he pulled it off. He completed 3 successful flights. We have the trophy signatures verifying it.
So technically, Harry Houdini is an aviation pioneer.
He is, but typical Houdini, once he got the record, he lost interest. He essentially said, okay, I conquered the sky, put the plane in storage, and never flew again.
He treated it like a stunt. Done that, next.
Exactly. Then he pivoted to movies. He made these serials, The Master Mystery, The Grim Game. He started his own production company, the Houdini Picture Corporation.
But we don't really talk about Houdini the movie star today. We don't watch his films.
Because honestly, he wasn't very good. He was stiff on camera. The movies made money initially because of his name, but the novelty wore off. He quit in 1923, citing meager profits. He realized he couldn't control the movie business the way he controlled the stage.
But there is one story from his film career that I love, the plane crash in The Grimm Game.
Pure marketing genius. During the filming, two planes actually collided in midair. It was a complete accident. A stuntman was dangling from one of them. Miraculously, no one died, but it looked spectacular.
And Houdini wasn't even in the plane, right?
He was on the ground watching. But the footage was gold. So Houdini's marketing machine immediately spun it. The poster screamed, "See Houdini risk his life in a midair collision?" He claimed it was him.
He stole the stuntman's valor.
He appropriated the tragedy for ticket sales. It shows his ruthlessness when it came to his brand. Truth was flexible if it sold tickets.
So by the 1920s, the movie career is fading. He's getting older. He can't hang from skyscrapers forever. And this is where he pivots to what I think is the most substantial work of his life, the Crusader, the Skeptic.
The Ghostbuster. You have to understand the context of the 1920s.
Yeah.
World War I had just slaughtered a generation of young men. The Spanish flu had killed millions more. The world was drowning in grief.
And where there is grief, there are sharks.
Exactly. Spiritualism was huge. Mediums were popping up everywhere claiming they could talk to the dead. They were charging grieving widows money to hear messages from their husbands.
And Houdini took this personally.
Very personally. We mentioned earlier that he was a mama's boy. That's an understatement.
Yeah.
He worshipped his mother, Cecilia. When she died, he was shattered. He would go to the cemetery and lie face down on her grave for hours.
Wow.
He desperately wanted to believe he could talk to her. But every medium he visited, he saw the tricks.
He saw the wires.
He saw the sleight of hand. He saw the cold reading. He realized they were using the same techniques he used in his magic act, but they were using them to exploit vulnerable people. It enraged him. He felt it was a moral crime.
So how did he catch them?
He went undercover. He'd wear disguises, false beards, glasses, funny hats. He'd bring a reporter and a police officer into the seance.
This is a raid.
Basically, he exposed Marjorie, the famous Boston medium who was the darling of the spiritualist movement. He exposed Joaquin Argamasilla, a Spaniard who claimed he had X-ray eyes and could read through metal boxes. Houdini showed exactly how he was peaking.
But this crusade cost him a friendship. Not just any friendship. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
This is the most baffling relationship in literary history. Conan Doyle created Sherlock Holmes, the embodiment of logic and deduction. But in real life, Doyle was a devout spiritualist. He believed in fairies. He believed in ectoplasm. He believed the dead were speaking to us.
And he believed in Houdini, but in the wrong way.
This is the twist. Doyle refused to believe Houdini was just doing tricks. He told Houdini to his face, "I know how you do it. You dematerialize your body. You have supernatural powers."
So Houdini would say, "Look, Arthur, it's a trick lock. Here's the pick." And Doyle would say, "No, you're a wizard, Harry."
Essentially. Houdini would demonstrate the trick to prove it was fake, and Doyle would say, "See? Only a wizard could do that."
That must have been maddening for Houdini.
It destroyed their friendship. They fought a proxy war in the newspapers. Houdini trying to teach the world logic, and Doyle doubling down on magic. It was a tragedy of communication.
But even in his skepticism, Houdini left a door open, the Rosabelle Code.
Yes, he wasn't a complete atheist about the afterlife. He was an agnostic who wanted proof. He and Bess had a secret code based on their favorite song, Rosabelle. The phrase was, "Rosabelle believe."
The deal was, if one of us dies, try to send that message.
It was the ultimate test. A password encryption for the afterlife. If anyone could escape the ultimate prison death, it was Houdini. If he was out there, he would send the code.
And, spoiler alert, he didn't.
Bess held seances every Halloween for 10 years. She sat with a candle, waiting for the code. It never came. On the 10th anniversary, she blew out the candle and said, 10 years is long enough to wait for any man.
That is heartbreaking, but we need to talk about how he died. Because for a guy who defied death for a living, drowning, burial, heights, his death was shockingly mundane.
It wasn't a stunt gone wrong. It wasn't the water torture cell. It was a punch. A simple punch.
Let's set the scene. October 1926, Montreal.
He's at the Princess Theater. He's in his dressing room, reclining on a couch because he had broken his ankle a few days earlier during a show.
He was already hurt. He wasn't out 100%.
He was run down. He was 52 years old.
Yeah.
A student from McGill University named Jocelyn Gordon Whitehead comes in. He asks Houdini, "Is it true you can withstand any blow to the stomach?"
Houdini had bragged about this. He claimed to have iron abdominal muscles.
He did. But usually, he prepared for it. He would stand up, brace his legs, and tighten his core. Whitehead didn't give him the chance. Houdini was lying down. He casually said yes, and Whitehead immediately delivered several hammer-like blows to his gut,
Well, he was totally relaxed.
completely defenseless.
Yeah.
Houdini winced and stopped him, but the damage was done. He was in agony immediately.
Well, he didn't go to the hospital.
No. He was stubborn. He traveled to Detroit for the next show. He had a fever of 104 degrees. The doctors examined him and said, "You have acute appendicitis and peritonitis. Your appendix has burst. You are being poisoned. If you don't have surgery now, you will die."
And Houdini said,
"I'll do it after the show."
"The show must go on, even if it kills you."
He went out on stage in Detroit. He was delirious. He reportedly passed out during the performance, was revived by his assistants, finished the show, and then collapsed for good. He was taken to the hospital, but the infection had spread too far. He died on Halloween, October 31st, 1926.
Halloween. You couldn't script a better ending for a magician.
It's almost too perfect. It cemented the legend.
But there is a medical debate here that I want to clarify. Did the punch kill him, or was he already dying?
It's the million-dollar question. For decades, the story was that the punch ruptured his appendix. That's the dramatic version. But modern medical insight suggests he likely had appendicitis before the punch.
So the punch was just a coincidence.
A fatal coincidence. The theory is that the pain from the punch masked the pain of the appendicitis. He thought his stomach hurt because he got hit by a college kid, so he ignored it. If he hadn't been punched, he might have realized, hey, this is a different kind of pain, and gone to the doctor sooner.
So the punch didn't rupture the organ, but it delayed the treatment.
Exactly. However, legally, the insurance company paid out double indemnity for accidental death, based on the punch theory.
Right.
So financially, the punch was the official cause.
Let's look at the aftermath. He's gone. What happens to the secrets?
He was a collector. He had a massive library of magic and occult books, which he left to the Library of Congress. But the props, the handcuffs, the water cell, he left those to his brother Hardin with specific instructions. Burn them.
He wanted the legacy to end with him. He didn't want anyone else doing his tricks.
He wanted the secrets to die. Hardin, thankfully for history, ignored him.
Good move, Hardin.
He kept the props. He used them in his own act, then sold them. The water torture cell frame survived a fire in a Niagara Falls museum in 1995. You can still see pieces of his history today.
And his grave is in Queens.
Machpelah Cemetery. It's a pilgrimage site. The Society of American Magicians, which he was president of for years, still holds a broken wand ceremony there, but it's also a site of vandalism. The bust on his grave has been stolen or smashed multiple times.
Even in death, people want a piece of him.
It speaks to the obsession. We just can't let him go.
So when we step back and look at this entire arc, from the poverty in Appleton to the heights of global fame, the planes, the movies, the ghost busting, what is the through line? What connects Erik Weisz to the legend?
I think it comes down to control. Houdini spent his entire life proving that he could control any situation. You lock him up, he gets out. You bury him, he rises. You try to fool him with ghosts, he exposes you. He built this armor of invincibility to protect that scared little immigrant kid inside who was afraid of being poor again.
But the armor had a crack.
That's a tragedy. He spent his life building defenses against impossible odds, water cells, straitjackets, chains. But in the end, he was taken down by something simple. A cheap shot he didn't see coming, and his own stubborn refusal to admit he was hurt.
It leaves us with a provocative thought. Houdini made the world believe he could escape anything. But was his greatest illusion convincing himself that he was invincible?
I think so. He believed his own press, and that is the one trap you can't escape.
A fascinating look at the man behind the magic. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into Harry Houdini. We'll catch you on the next one.